Welcome to another episode of Made Visible with me, Ankur. I have been leveling up this setup that I have. So that ended up taking more time than I thought it would. I've completely moved to a professional setup. So that shift has taken some amount of learning and relearning and unlearning of old things. Anyway, we're back now and let's move on to our episode today about other species and Epstein. Lou drops a book's name. David Wilcock goes the absolute other way of Lou Elizondo. Details come in of a first hand encounter. And finally, Epstein and his Zorro Ranch. But before we start, let's look at this.
For the pure joy of hurting them.
That's it. There is no other benefit. They're looking for vulnerable kids. After they befriend them and pretend they're their boyfriend or girlfriend, they exchange nude photos and then they try to get them to harm themselves. And I've never seen anything like that in my life, especially coordinated and connected with real Satanist groups.
I will say Russia banned Satanism. Putin banned Satanism. It's one of the reasons they hate Putin. And if you look at who hates Putin the most, it's not the anti-Satanists. You can say whatever you want, but a normal country would just ban this. Sorry.
Welcome back, boys and girls. And let's start with our first video for today, where Lou Elizondo is being as cryptic as he always is in talking about disclosure. Although he's cryptic, he's also trying to scare the living daylights out of us, both at the same time. I can't tell you, and it's really scary. And this is just more of it. But there is an interesting twist where this is being now reacted by Ross Coulthard, who's a journalist who, again, the last 3-4 years has come into the scene and started to believe in the whole subject of aliens. So he shares his own personal opinions and guides us further on things that Lou Elizondo had told before.
I think we should love our families. I think we need to spend more time with our children. Love one another. This is going to happen whether we like it or not. And I believe that things happen to the benefit of mankind. Maybe we need to focus on each other and try to be more kind to one another, try to be more patient, try to give grace, take time to tell your children you love them, take time to tell your spouse you respect them and you love them. That's my word of advice.
Well, love our families is always a good guide, but yes, I guess you can take from that the implication that there's something portentous or catastrophic down the track. I honestly don't know. I hear this speculation all the time. Lou's dropped a couple of clangers about it over the years, and he never goes into specifics, and I find it as frustrating as everyone else does.
See, this is the key point. He never goes into specifics. And the reason he gives is this.
He's not the only one doing it, by the way. There are many narratives running through UAPology suggesting that there's some kind of imminent catastrophe, imminent event which poses a threat to human safety. I really don't know what it is. I mean, at its least, Lou's basically suggesting that disclosure might be an ontologically shocking event, that it might be something that puts human beings on the back foot.
So here's my question. Does disclosure cause the uprising and uprooting of humanity? Or does the uprising and uprooting of humanity cause disclosure? What comes first?
Especially in terms of establishment religion and things like that. Lou's basically suggesting that disclosure might be an ontologically shocking event, that it might be something that puts human beings on the back foot, especially in terms of establishment religion and things like that. Whenever people ask me this question, I always come back to the one narrative that Lou Elizondo constantly refers people to, which is the Chains of the Seas book. It's a 1973 science fiction novella called Chains of the Seas by a guy called Gardner Dozois. And it's one of the best fictional depictions of the UAP NHI phenomenon. And it's weird. And it's weird in a way that I find interesting. Lou's often said if I can share one anecdotal story of the phenomena, I direct people's attention to a collection of short stories to a novella called Chains of the Sea. The way the short story describes the phenomena is very similar to people in real life that have described the phenomena, personal experiences. While I'm not endorsing this story as being truthful or accurate, I think it provides a fundamentally different perspective and it forces us to think about this phenomena in a different way. So, on your behalf, dear viewers, I went away recently and reread The Chains of the Sea. And what do I take from it? Well, it's got a young boy in it called Tommy who can perceive other people, invisible or interdimensional entities. They coexist with humanity on Earth.
So this is already a part of the narrative today. The US government has identified and recognized not extraterrestrials yet, only interdimensional beings. Congress people have come forward talking about interdimensional beings more times than they've come talking about being briefed about extraterrestrials. Anyway, let's continue watching
all
this.
around us. Meanwhile, mysterious alien spacecraft land in various locations across the states and the world. Governments panic, they attempt cover ups as governments do, and they fail. Military responses prove ineffective. Humanity's AI systems, now this is interesting, secretly communicate with the visitors, bypassing humans. The aliens aren't really all that interested in us humans, and they reveal that Earth is already ruled by ancient non-human intelligences that have long been present but hidden from normal human perception. And so what the story is all about is exploring, essentially.
So there are beings that don't find us interesting. We are like subjects. This is one theory that Lou Elizondo brings forward, that these are like god-like beings, and we are nothing more than just subjects to them. This angle does present some challenges, especially for organized religion, because in those situations, organized religion already talks of us being part of and being the subjects of a higher force. But where many religions differ is in their depiction of them being God. So there could be this shift from having these beings being represented as gods to understanding that there is a higher force above the physical representation, and that is God. And everything else that we perceive as God, every other being that we pray to as God that has a image and has a form, could just be one of these higher beings. That could be a very big disruption for organized religion. We already did see in the previous episodes that there is a whole theory that Mother Mary was interacting with an extraterrestrial, a superpower, and gave birth to a hybrid that could walk on, who could walk on water, and they called him Jesus. So yeah, this does go very much in line, and I'm not very sure if that is disclosure. It is not really that exciting because we have already toyed with these ideas for long enough that whoever they talk to, they said that it just falls in line with their view of the texts, the sacred texts. So nothing exciting here. Hoping for something more exciting from Lou Elizondo in the future, something that can shock us. Now, I think it's just no longer about the disclosure thing. It's just a challenge of whether we can take it or not. And I think everyone's just waiting for that. All right, so on to the next one. On one side, we have this person who feels that there are these beings, but what kinds of beings? So that's where the second video of today comes from. This is David Wilcock. He is no more. He passed away. And I think he was the one who shot himself. I think it's possible, but it's unlikely that that happened, is what I'm trying to say. And he's one of those 10 people who recently passed away, very close to this ufology subject. This is from a very old talk of his. So let's watch, guys.
He had people that looked like grasshoppers, okay? But then he describes that you're not.
So he's actually talking about there being around 35 extraterrestrial races. As you can see the title of the video, he also goes into a lot of Hindu texts and the predictions of how the earth is going to change, the consciousness on earth is going to change. He talks about a lot of those things as well. But this part was very interesting, considering he was very directly talking about species.
Actually scared around them, even though they have compound eyes, because they're telepathic and they have a great sense of humor, as it turns out. They're always joking around with you. He actually described that there was a positive reptilian group. This is new. We always thought reptilians were always evil. There's another group that doesn't have vertical slit pupils, where they look kind of more of like a morph between the reptilian type and a human type, and they just have really large, kind of roundish eyes that look more like our eyes. And those types are actually very positive. And they appear to be the Nagas that were reported in the Hindu scriptures, which again is a reptilian race that, unlike the others, was actually wanting our best good. All these people, Emery has had the chance to talk to many different extraterrestrials, and they all wanted disclosure. When he interfaced with them telepathically, they all said, well, we're helping you guys because we want you to understand who's out there in the galaxy so that when this shift happens, you'll be ready for it.
Right. So this is very different from a very old presentation that the Russian military had given to its people in the defense forces that said that 80% of interactions between humans and UFOs or aliens were always negative to humans in terms of either them harming the human being involved. In such a scenario, like having seen that presentation, it's actually very comforting and calming to know that it's not the case. That there are, just like in the human race, there are good people and bad people. There are good and bad people in other races as well. Some have more of good people and less of bad people, and it's some races have the other way around. Like the reptilians are known to be very hostile, incredibly strong and dangerous as a species. And like he said, no, there is an exception. There's Nagas, and there are places where they are known to come out of, caves that they are known to come out of. Most people believe that they do live here. There's the possibility of a whole nother planet under the earth, under the surface of the earth, with its own gravity and things like that. So,
what is the shift? Imagine now that that 35 different species meeting happens at the White House, and that in the almost within months, Stargate travel is available, faster than light travel is available, anti-gravity is available, free energy is available. All this stuff just shows up. Everybody in that civilization is going to be talking about the time that we were so stupid. And you're not even going to think about it anymore. You just become part of this greater community. You have to learn a whole lot of information really fast, but of course you want to learn because it's fascinating. And you're seeing the proof. You can't deny it if you get into a spaceship and you're flying up in the air and you take off Earth's atmosphere.
compared to what Lou Elizondo was talking about as a possible theory that links to disclosure, the truth could also be this. The truth could also be them having the technology, them sharing the technology with us, them hand holding us like friends, like equals, and us actually becoming a part of a very rich, multi-racial community of space-going citizens, intergalactic citizens, right? That this is another possibility. This is the other side to it. So it's not necessary to only go with that theory that Lou Elizondo gives, because he's been wrong many times before about many things. And this could just be a little bit of fear mongering, where we are made to believe that we are being ruled by a superhuman race or a super species, and we bow to them, and we're their slaves. I don't fully go with that.
Here and land on the moon, and oh my gosh, there's these ancient ruins right over here, and there's this base over here, and I have all these.
He's right about this, though, that on the moon there are these bases, there are these ancient ruins, there are actual aliens that are operating out of the moon and the surface of the moon. That's why the dark side of the moon is so interesting to us. I mean, the moon has its own like entire episode that I could go into, considering it is hollow. It's considered hollow, considering it's rotating in a very weird way around the Earth. It doesn't have its own spin. It just faces the same side, faces us all the time. So what's happening behind? Really, we don't know. And there are ancient texts that go back that talk about there being a time when there was no moon. Earth did not have a moon. So it was artificially put there, is another whole line of thought going into the records of Atlantis and things like that. But yeah, that's a whole nother episode. But let's just get back to what he was talking about.
These new friends that want to hang out with me if I just take a trip over to the moon. That's the kind of world we're talking about. And it won't take very long to get there once we get full disclosure, because we have materializers where we can make as many of these craft as we need very quickly. So it doesn't have to go through the normal industrialization process as would occur, for example, if we wanted to build a new type of car that ran on a new type of fuel. This is very different than that.
Here's another interesting concept that is present in entire space discussions. So they have this concept where on one side you have Star Wars, and on the other side you have Star Trek. So the primary difference, if you note, between Star Wars and Star Trek is that in Star Wars there's scarcity. Battle happens for resources. Versus there is another reality of space and interstellar travel and things like that, which is Star Trek, where they're really not fighting for resources, right? The fight everything. They have materializers, so they don't need to fight for food. Their ships run for generations, like for a few hundred years. The fuel source is not an issue. So it's about abundance, right? And that's the underlying principally different approaches that Star Wars takes compared to Star Trek.
So I want you to understand that there are multiple individuals who you can speak with, or who you can at least hear from, who have already worked in this world. And they've already lived this reality where there's all these ETs and all this technology being kept hidden from us. Now, some would say, oh my God, just release the technology. But on another level, if you think about what Sergeant Bob Dean once said, Major Sergeant Bob Dean, we have to grow up. We have to be ready to use this responsibly. How are we supposed to get along with other types of human beings from other planets if we can't even resolve our racial disputes here on Earth?
It's very probable that we are not getting any kind of open contact, because as on today, we aren't able to get along with one another. We have factions, manufactured invisible lines that are not visible from space, that we've created, and we call those countries, we call those religions, we call those races, and we even have another dividing factor called languages. So considering the number of differences that exist, That makes us very interesting. That's not really the kind of planet that any alien that is a unified persona, this is not a kind of planet that they would like to deal with, because they would like to deal with easily recognizable. And I'm pretty sure on a galactic scale, just like a CM of a state in India would not go to the G7 summit or the G20 summit. Only India's leader would go to the G20 summit, because that's a different forum. Similarly, if we have, let's say, these many species and a galactic forum, they don't want to deal separately with the Chinese and the Americans and the Indians and the other species, the other races of the earth. They want to deal with human from earth. Until we reach that stage, we may not really be mature enough to even receive these technologies, because we'd just be troublemakers, and we could go a whole nother way. Our race could just go a whole nother way of being these pirates.
Am I right? Think about that one. I want to see a world in which everything changes for the better. And apparently, so does the cosmic consciousness that made all of this stuff, this original identity. There is an underlying teaching that we have to go through a rite of passage to enter into this galactic community. And that rite of passage is what we call ascension. So the ascension process, so many different insiders are now saying the same thing. What Corey Good, among other things, has described is that there are these caverns underground that look like this.
As we were talking.
And these caverns have civilizations from Earth's future that traveled back in time, because apparently that technology becomes available, traveled back in time to be with us. So we have a cool little animation here where you just see them gliding along. Fancy stuff, huh? But seriously, if you could imagine that there's just countless places like this inside the Earth right now, they're already there, they're already having a great time with high technology, and they're trying to teach us something, and they've been doing this for thousands of years. Now you have to go back and look at the ancient teachings themselves.
Time traveling aliens, or aliens being future humans who are coming back to communicate and teach and warn us, or even document before a major catastrophe, moving back in time to come and see what really occurred for it to happen this way. This theory also works out where they could just be here, and there is only two civilizations, one that travels time and one that doesn't. We are the one that doesn't, because the moment you are able to travel through time, front and back, you are no longer like us.
And realize that those gods didn't leave. They just changed their focus. Back then, they could talk to isolated cultures without violating our free will. Right now, they're kind of holding back in order to give us a chance to civilize, in order to give us a chance to become more ascended. So
This entire talk then goes deeper into just the Kali Yuga and all that this person has understood from Hindu scriptures like the Rig Veda and the Bhagavad Gita and others. These are so different. The opinion of one Lou Elizondo, who's talking about gods and us being the subjects, being ruled by these races, having limitations, not being relevant. And then there is this other possibility where there are multiple races. Those races are already together. We are being given the time to learn and grow, to unify. So this seems like a possibility where these gods that we used to call gods might have just been ascended beings guiding us over thousands of years so that we are more civilized, so that we are capable of handling the technologies and the sciences that they possess. So this level of civility and technology, awareness of technology and awareness of civilization or civilized behavior, both of these, when they converge, right, when they come to that same point where both of these have been achieved by the human race, that's when I feel like there's going to be a very open kind of disclosure. Though many people believe that we are ready for that, this particular convergence we aren't yet ready for. We haven't reached there. So maybe whatever comes after that, we're not really ready for, because we just weaponize it. Anyway, guys, moving forward to the next video of today, we're going to watch this guy talk about his alien encounter. He is one of the people who came forward just after the congressional hearing in 2002, 2003, and his account is very unusual because he's been in these secret bases of the US government, where he's talking about the weird encounter he had with an alien and having met a alien being and what happened after.
There at the corner of the front of the car. And
So he looks pale? Is that what you're saying?
he looked like an albino with a very bluish kind of undertone. If you could imagine,
So you're assuming like you're immediately
So albino is not Caucasian. What he's talking about albino is someone who is just so pale that even a white person would just look at that person and be like, yeah, you're albino. You're just pure pasty white.
associating that with like he's freezing.
yeah, because that's all I could equate it to.
Right.
And then as I'm starting to open my door to try to administer aid to this guy, the dude in the front passenger seat screams he's got no ears, and I thought that was pretty rude because I was like, the guy's in trouble.
Does he have a hat on? Does he have?
He's got a hat on, and he's got BDUs that look absolutely clean, pristine. And when you're uprange, you do not wear your cleanest uniform. You're in a dirty environment. You wear your scuffed up boots. You don't take them with you.
So he's got.
So just imagine, he's got like super clean uniform. He is wearing some sort of a uniform, which is very clean. He's a pasty white being with no ears and a bluish tinge to him.
Clean battle dress uniform.
Everything. I'm
United
like,
States military.
Very out of
uniform.
place. Yeah, it looks very out of place when I finally do it. But anyway, I step out onto the roadway, and this guy screams that he's got no ears. And I just thinking it's really rude. And then I close the door, and I look up, and he's got no freaking ears. And his eyes are twice as big. And I just am like, yeah, what the hell did I just walk into? This guy's not from around
How
here.
far?
Just look at his eyes when he talks about the being, that you will see this entire region here, right? Just above your nose and just below your forehead, this entire region of your eye, upper cheekbone, and it completely changes for people who are recollecting something real. So look at his eyes when he talks about.
What the hell did I just walk into? This guy's not from around
How
here.
far away from him are you?
Probably from me to
Just a few
Logan.
feet.
He just got disoriented there. I mean, like if you just, you can actually do that by pausing my video and see him and his reaction completely liquefy, his face liquefy with fear and.
Yeah, just talking distance.
Okay.
And I'm starting to freak out, but then he starts to talk to me, and it's not my language, but it's coming to the understanding is like coming into my mind about every word he's saying, because
So he's actually saying words,
he's saying words, but it doesn't sound like anything I've heard before.
but you're understanding what he's saying.
But I'm understanding, so I know there's a telepathic thing going on here, and it calms me down at the same time because I'm having to respond to him, and he's like, "Hello, I'm having trouble with my craft. I need some repair material. Do you know where I could find some tritium?" And this is what he's talking to me about. And I'm like, "You mean titanium?" Because I didn't know anything about tritium at the time. But titanium, he's like, "No, it's not it." And I'm like, well, at this point in my career, I had just left the program. So I knew where Dreamland was. And I pointed to the mountain range because you can see for days in the desert. But I pointed towards the mountain range and I said, Dreamland's just over there. And this.
Again, you can see him break down. I mean, it's real. This is
wave of emotion hit me like disgust. Like, I am not going to talk to those barbarians and murderers. You know. And
wow. So he was saying that to you, like his reaction to going to the military base was
exactly. Yeah.
was not.
He did not like it. He said, "I am not going to talk to those people." And then I was like, "Well, shoot."
And it was barbarians and murderers.
He literally, that was what he called them. Yes. And mentally, that's what it was. But the emotion.
Tritium, is this a real thing?
Well, that's what I've had a lot of friends. There's analysts also that were on the top secret network that were trying to help me understand what material.
We were throwing everything at him. We're like, "Is it this? Is it this?" And he's
and then
like,
finally,
"No."
that's the one. When they hit tritium, I was like, "That's what it was." That's what he said.
And what is tritium?
It's a type of well. Can he bring it up on the?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, because it should pop up on Wikipedia pretty quick. But it has some properties that probably would work.
But are you saying tritium?
Yeah, tritium is that's the stuff that's in Loom, like in your
Yes.
watch when your watch glows. That's you know they make those where they're basically like radioactive. Marathon makes military watches, and the Loom, and then exactly they still do a lot. Like Sig has them.
Now,
on
look
their
up
guns.
tritium. Also, put an
Tritium
end in
is
there.
chunky glow in the dark
Tritium. Then I'm
stuff that emits light.
yep.
So it emits a weak form of radiation.
Yes.
A rare radioactive isotope of hydrogen with a half-life of 12.3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So this is what he's asking me for.
So he's asking you for that stuff? Tritium?
Yep. And I'm like, I don't know where to get.
Oh, look at that. It's used in boosted fission weapons and thermonuclear weapons. Oh, great.
That sounds reassuring, right?
I wonder what the fuck it's doing on your wrist. Is there anybody...
This is what the best image that we have of what he could have looked like.
Oh, boy. Can you send that to Jamie?
Yeah, I don't know Jamie's number, but we'll find a way to.
Is that an iPhone or an Android?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that an iPhone?
There was a three-dimensional image because on the north side, I did it.
Tell him dreams. This
was the nose was.
If he saw an alien that was dressed in some galactic uniform, he'd probably be scared. And this alien was probably projecting itself, maybe its own thought, onto him. And this being was dressed in military uniform to make it such that he doesn't panic and this being doesn't look like it's out of the ordinary, so to say.
Was a little bit rounder on the end, but that was a really good rendition. But yeah, his eyes almost came out to here on the temple.
So now on to the next video. This one is a reel that we'll watch first, and then we will get to the entire story about this. So this is Eric Weinstein. He's a pretty famous professor cum scientist, very highly respected, and he recently moved to the dark side as much as science is concerned, because he went from being a skeptic, like every good scientist is considered to be accepted by the scientific community. He has come to the other side where he has openly started to believe in aliens now and openly discuss theories and subjects related to that. And him coming out is major news, just like Neil deGrasse Tyson coming out is big news. Just that he's not as widely known as Neil deGrasse Tyson. But that and his account of what happens after he comes out is pretty interesting.
They're all going to come together. Jesse Michaels and American Alchemy. Boy, did that get a response.
So that's where he came out in Jesse Michaels' show, where he said that, yeah, I think I was wrong about aliens.
Inside the government. That particular episode.
How so?
I had a lot of people who had stopped talking to me about UFOs. You know, I had like 8 calls immediately after it aired. Hey, Eric, just thought I'd catch up with you. I was like, oh, okay. There was a huge discussion inside. Without getting into particulars, the first official outreach, like really official outreach, the checks in the wake of that episode. I'm not under any NDAs. Nobody's told me anything that I can't discuss. But that may change. When I hear something from many sources, I don't need to protect it anymore. It's already out. I have now heard the White Sands story from many sources.
the White Sands story is nothing but White Sands is the place in it's a place in New Mexico where nuclear weapons were first tested for the first time. The first atomic bomb that ever went off on planet Earth in modern society has been in White Sands. And there's a story involving the fact that after this, the nuclear scientists associated, one of them was abducted and was shown New York and shown destruction and things like that. And there's also another side story that says that there were many flying saucers that showed up after that test because it seems to put out some sort of scalar wave that causes a lot of disruption to the technologies that these crafts use, these unmanned and manned UFO crafts that they use. So that's White Sands. So he's saying White Sands is real at this moment. So it's just like a very small drop, but if you know the subject, that's a major yes that happened, which means that yes, we tested the atomic bomb and aliens started to contact and try to connect and see what's happening with us.
This is the one where the crafts hovered over the base, shut down the nuclear program. Is that it?
I'm just going to say what I can say that's fuzzed out that can't be traced to anybody.
Okay.
I was very upset with this shutdown of the El Paso airspace.
That was recently.
Supposed to be, we had a problem with cartel drones.
Right.
I don't believe that. I think Texas is another name for New Mexico. I think El Paso is a name for White Sands. I think we have a problem that we've lost control of our airspace. New Mexico is the connector of the nuclear story, the Epstien story, and the UFO story.
So here's the other thing, that there are absolutely three stories. One is the nuclear program, the contacts that have occurred, the alien contacts that have occurred because of the nuclear program, where if you are near a nuclear power plant, there are chances of you seeing these crafts come and probe. There are stories where they have powered up nuclear missiles and powered down nuclear missiles in other parts of the world. So these things are around nuclear. So there is this one story. There is this other story, which is the UFO story, the disclosure and everything that everyone here is fighting for. And then there is this third Epstein story, which part of it of all the pedophilia and but do you know that he was meeting crazy, powerful scientists? He was meeting the people who were at the top of their game when it came to biology, when it came to genetics, when it came to research into, you know, deep physics and just generally very future kind of stuff, like future stuff. So it's no surprise that he also had a ranch in New Mexico. His ranch is about 200 kilometers to 300 kilometers away from this place, El Paso, also called White Sands. All of these are like in a 400-kilometer area. So if you are an alien being, or if you're in a craft that's a few kilometers up in the air, looking down 400 kilometers is just one triangle, one tiny little square that you can look at. So them being all here, right, kind of raises some very unique questions about what he was really doing. Is about Epstein's Zorro Ranch. You can go down this rabbit hole as you feel like and learn more and more deeper things about what he was trying to do there. But this is one ranch that has not been investigated, has not come in. Like, you've seen pictures of the Epstein Island, but have you seen pictures of the Zorro Ranch? You probably haven't.
Got to be that guy sometimes.
Yeah.
But I also had up there, we had saved this one. We were going to do this a couple weeks ago and didn't go there. There were more allegations coming out of Zorro Ranch, which, you know, when Epstein was arrested in 2019, that was like the one property they didn't raid right away. It was also one that quietly got sold. And until recently, when there was public scrutiny, they weren't trying to dig up the grounds around there to find bodies, which, by the way, we don't hear much about that investigation. That's neither here nor there.
Yeah, sure.
But Zorro Ranch is out in a remote location in New Mexico. It's a place where Epstein entertained a lot of high-level people. And there have been all kinds of reports over the years. We had these reports even summer 2019 when he got arrested, that this was a place that Epstein considered a potential breeding ground for his eugenics plan or belief system, using AI gods to create perfect DNA, where he also thought his DNA was like special, which obviously was total bullshit. But, Chris Hansen was in here and talked about a victim waking up in Zorro Ranch on an operating table and having guesses about what happened there, but not sure. We also have diary entries from alleged victims discussing about, babies being born there. Like, we don't have the full fire to see, but the amount of smoke we have is insane. And when you go through the Epstein files and see all the scientists that Jeffrey Epstein consistently discussed DNA supremacy, eugenics-related topics with, seeding the master race and stuff like this with, it's impossible to not think that this was a major priority in his life.
Yeah, for sure. And the fact that none of these investigations are being, followed through with, all that, it's another one that it'll just be swept under the rug.
And don't worry, Don Hafines is turning it into a Christian retreat. So we're gonna, as we said several episodes ago, we're gonna wash it away with the Lord. 'Cause that's what they do, That's what they do. But this is a report from the New York Post from April 27, 2026. Apologies for just getting to this now. We have had this on the list for the last 2 or 3 weeks and just haven't gotten there. But multiple young men were allegedly drugged, R-worded, at Epstein's Zorro Ranch, where super predators roam, according to a report. So, according to exclusive new report that detailed harrowing accusations from murder to baby snatched from mothers at the pedo's New Mexico House of Horrors. A man actually claims that he met Jeffrey Epstein and was brought to the ranch. He was drugged. U.S. Rep. Melanie Stansbury told 60 Minutes Australia in a Sunday segment, The Sun reported. He describes in detail a scene in which multiple young men were R-worded at the ranch in front of him after he was drugged. Let's keep going. Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell were serial abusers. They really were super predators, and it was just how they lived their lives. It's unclear how Stansbury learned the excruciating alleged apart by an anonymous 2019 allegations that Epstein and Maxwell choked women to death during rough fetish sex and buried them on the ranch. Accusations that resurfaced with the release earlier this year of the tranche of files from the FBI's investigation into the disgraced financier. That particular tip of men being R-worded matched the pattern of other abuse and transport and traffic allegations of women who experienced. Dedicated to Shante Davies, who you guys have been out there for a while discussing. 60 Minutes, she spent countless hours feeling like a mouse in a trap at Zorro Ranch. More creepy pictures of Epstein right there. It's just a creepy.
So this is the Zorro Ranch, and if you see the grounds, you see a circular garden back there, like a spacecraft. I don't know if you can, let me try and zoom in. If you see this, there is this circular garden-like thing at the back on a square patch with no seating, with no, I don't even know why it's there. And then they have just this really funny kind of lawn set up on the bottom left of the image, where you have a white square in the middle of a lawn. This is just me looking at it, and then there's this weird ass Z for Zorro on the just above that lawn where the white square patch is. So these are things that kind of stuck out to me. And you look at the place, right? It's in the middle of literally nowhere. It's kilometers and hundreds of kilometers of just barrenness behind. So this is the Zorro Ranch. They were on point about the abuse, but I think this this ranch in particular, which is not being investigated, which has silently, as I have read recently, been taken over by one of Donald Trump's cabinet members. It's been purchased secretly. So it's already shifted hands. It's no longer even owned by Epstein. So part of the Epstein trial is just, they've been trying to get this as a part of the Epstein trial, but they've been failing miserably to get it there. All of this abuse, and the victims are one layer of this weird cake where there is another layer below it, which is about engineering a better human, engineering a superior human. Anyway, pleasure talking to you today, and catch you in the next one.